This is a new endgame mode that we're actually adding to Diablo 4. It's for a limited time only. It's a seasonal event specifically. We're going to have a live run through of the Abattoir Zir.
We asked for this. That's cool. People called and I was like, make someone play the game.
You can pet the dog in Diablo 4.
Once you practice this, the dog wasn't there.
in case it wasn't clear, that is still a feature that exists in the game.
Yeah.
All right. So, Rich, what build are you going to be running here for us today?
Yeah. So.
Wait, is he actually doing it right now?
I'm actually going to be running a popular build, the Ball Lightning build.
Okay, Ball.
I'm going to wait for Joe to kind of explain some of the earlier stuff, basically a lot of the gameplay loop stuff. But pretty familiar for those who've been watching a lot of the endgame material for Ball Lightning. Specifically for this, I really focused around like survivability, mobility, with a sprinkle of DPS. But I think before we get into
With
it,
a sprinkle.
sprinkle of
Ball
DPS.
Lightning known for its low damage output capacity, absolutely. So if you really want to go and start going through this content, you'll need to have done all the things in the season beforehand to be able to gain access to the very first Blood Forge sigil you're able to craft here at the Occultist. Now, once you've taken this sigil, this is going to open up a new dungeon space.
Okay, here we go.
More challenging than a tier 100 Nightmare dungeon.
We actually get to see it.
Now there are 25 tiers of the Abattoir Zir for players to engage with, and each of these does get progressively much more challenging as you step up. Much more challenging than, say, going from like a tier 75 Nightmare dungeon to a tier 76 Nightmare dungeon. Going from a tier 1 to a tier 2 to a tier 3, these are really significant steps by comparison.
Let's go.
Yeah, so Rich has done a little of this content on his character here already. So he's got a little bit of a preview of how it's going to play, how it's going to feel to play through. But I think it's going to be pretty fun. Let's see how he
performs. So it is sort of like a dungeon.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I did want to address on that I saw from chat is that character that I have is as close as I can be to being maxed out. Because this is trying to be as relatively close to what I've been practicing on, which has been the tier level 100 Nightmare dungeons. And I think there's a few things that I wanted to call out as well.
He's actually playing here.
On the actual sigil itself, I think one difference here is that I'm not aware of what afflictions I'm going to encounter in this battle. So I think capping things or getting as close to as capped I can for things like my armor, my magic resist, my damage, and all those. Just really trying to be ready and prepared for any surprises.
Yeah, I know, Rich, because you've played through Abattoir a little bit, you've built a little bit more survival on your Sork here.
Yeah, this is a live run, guys. It's live.
Like completely glass cannon. He's a little bit more prepared than I think some other people would be. But I know with us showcasing here a level 1 Abattoir, kind of at least showcases a little bit. How would you guys compare this to like a Nightmare dungeon?
Yeah, the dev build isn't showing like the damage numbers or anything.
Would it be similar to like a Nightmare dungeon in terms of tier with a level 1?
Yeah, the level 1 Abattoir Zir is like kind of close to what like a level 104 might be. Like that's kind of where things start, and then things step up from there. Now, you'll see here right off the bat, there's some big differences, right? Like on the right-hand side, you see that there's a bar that's being filled. Abattoir Zir runs are really races against time. So Rich here is really focused on killing creatures as fast as he can in an effort to kind of beat that timer and summon the boss at the end of the experience. Loot's not dropping for him as he's kind of rolling through this thing. We don't want to slow you down. We want to keep you killing as fast as you can to show off your ability to kind of like survive in these environments. Now, as we step up, one thing we think is interesting about this is we actually taking one step back actually. Some of the things that Joe's talked about when we were at the at BlizzCon was our commitment to end game content and itemization rewards and things. The things we want to do to continue to make the game better. Abattoir Zir is like it's designed explicitly to appeal to players who are at this stage of the gameplay experience, and we're going to be using it to kind of like think about and iterate upon more features like this we want to bring out in the future. That's one of the reasons why it's a seasonal event. It's a fun experience for season 2.
Build.
But we'll have slightly different ideas in the future of how we want to kind of create similar content.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, and I know we can see Rich. By the way, Rich has been so lucky with shrines every single time we've watched him go through.
Yeah.
He consistently gets artillery shrines, which I'm just gonna claim I don't know, community manager
Community manager
benefits.
RNG. Yes.
Definitely a big part of it.
You know, I'm going to be 100% honest with everyone
see the
here,
boss.
those watching. I went super tanky because I think one of the nightmares that I would have is actually to die in the middle of a demo.
Yeah.
There's
We'll make that happen. I promise. I know with level 1, as you can see, Rich is like well ahead of time, so he's clearly geared out. And,
you get no
and
lives,
ready
though.
for a level
Lives
1.
remaining 0.
But at the end of these abattoirs, we'll see here in a second as he gets to time. We do have a little bit of a kind of an end period for players, a little bit more of a challenge towards the end.
And one thing that's making this particularly interesting is with the vampiric powers in Season 2, with Rich running Metamorphosis regularly, I mean, he's basically got like permanent unstoppable. You know, as he's just kind of like using Flicker Step to keep resetting that unstable currents, and he is just keeping that 4-second unstoppable uptime. And he has summoned the boss, and wow, that was spicy right off the bat.
A little close.
So every time you manage to clear one of these levels, you're going to summon
Bloodseekers?
3 Bloodseekers, who are, you know, pretty strong. They're going to have the affixes of their own. That you're going to have to go ahead and clear through. The timer is still ticking, but you know, Rich has got a really good, healthy lead on the timer right now, so I don't think that's going to be a problem.
You can
It's
hear
just
him
gonna be
panic
question
clicking
of
a
whether
little
or
bit.
not you get spiked by something you didn't expect.
You got it, Rich.
But with the amount of barrier you should be able to pack with your sword at this point, I don't think that should be a problem.
I don't know.
This is a unfavorable
this is-
spawn.
Yeah,
He is not
this
doing-
spot. One
You're in some tight corners
I think
here.
in every single
He's
practice
got
this
it.
has happened. But
He's got it, come
what
on.
what I'm feeling
All
lucky
right.
about is that I
One
don't
down.
have
All right, there you
suppressor,
go.
which is
There
definitely
you
a
go.
nightmare
There you
for
go.
me and my
There you
ball
go.
lightning. But yes, I'll pass it back over to you because there's actually some pretty cool stuff to call out over here.
Yeah, so so
that was
upon
the
finishing
tier
your
1.
first run through the abattoir of View, you're going to earn the special glyph associated with the seasonal event, which is the Tears
Okay.
of Blood glyph that you can see here. Now, Rich has already spent some XP on this, upgrading it before, but this is an extraordinarily powerful multiplicative bonus glyph you get to kind of slot in. You know, this has got 200 levels associated with it for you to upgrade through over the course of time. It starts out at the size of a tier 15 normal glyph, normal rare glyph. So it is extremely strong right off the bat. So you're going to be able to use this to kind of help you get through some of the more difficult tiers as you go deeper and deeper into the experience. And there's one other really neat thing about this as well. So this experience, the Tears of Blood glyph itself has like a lot of Paragon glyph XP that you need in order to upgrade it as you continue to like go on through the experience. And one of the things you wanted to do was make sure that if you're at this stage, if you want to experiment with other glyphs, you can still you get giant amounts of XP from finishing Abattoir 0 level.
1,000.
And
You got 1,000.
players
From tier
right
one.
there saw 1,000 XP.
From a tier,
so, yeah.
from a tier 1, you get 1,000. So if you want to use this as an opportunity to kind of like rank up some of those other glyphs you've got because you want to play with other things for other builds and other things, here's an opportunity for you to kind of like go in quickly, like level up a bunch of those other glyphs that you have, in addition to like, you know, not taking too much time away from your Tears of the Blood if you're trying to like keep pace with that. But we think that's like an extra fun little bit. But yeah, Tears of Blood glyph, super powerful for players to be able to engage with. Again, it's only here for the season, and it'll be retired at the end of that season.
Yeah, and like we just saw Rich, of course, you know, churn through a level 1 pretty easily. I struggled a little at the end, but
There was a little struggle. I got a little
So
nervous.
it's basically a nightmare dungeon.
But I know Rich, what key or what sigils do you have here?
So I think what I did over there was a sigil one. I think what we were talking about was trying to make like an engagement moment, basically by having chat almost pick the challenge ahead. So what I've pre-crafted beforehand is a 2, a 6, as well as a 10.
Do a
Funny
10.
enough, I created backups for this because like, hey, I might die.
10, let's go. Come on, straight to the 10.
I think it's just one of those things where I would love to reserve the 10 and beyond levels for a later moment.
Yes,
But
yeah.
Adam, you had a great idea.
And as a reminder, like tiers for abattoirs here go up to 25.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there are a significant amount of tiers, and they of course go up in difficulty by a pretty like almost an exponential amount as you're going from tier to tier. But be curious. Okay, all right. Like you already asked the chat, and the chat is already going like screaming 10.
Yeah.
So they just want you to die.
Okay, we
which-
said like we're gonna let chat choose 2, 6, or 10. We'll see what they say. I'm like, it's gonna be 10. They're gonna absolutely
Gonna
want
be
to
10.
They're
They're
going
gonna
to
say
want to
10.
see 10. So, Rich, take us into a
Let's do it.
tier 10, and
Yes.
let's see how he does.
Straight in.
Now, are you going to
you got
adjust
4
builds a little bit
you have
here?
4
I mean, he
So-
struggled a bit on the
Call
1.
it.
I mean, a few things here, I think, for the players at home is that obviously you saw that the previous one I was geared up to be a little bit more tanky because the last thing that I want to do embarrass myself and die on there.
Fair.
But I think what Joe and team can do is also explain like how some of the scaling works as I go up. So I think I'll just go in. I think what I'm trying to balance out now is just try to add a little bit more damage output by sacrificing some of my tankiness. Just because I anticipate that the higher HP is going to be a challenge, and I don't want to lose to the time, and I actually want to see how far I can progress. So let me activate this.
I was like, you went back in without acting.
Yeah,
You know,
so-
the nerves. It's the nerves.
Yeah, to Rich's point here, I mean, it's not easy to play
9K
games on
armor,
stream.
12K life.
No, it's not.
No, so this is why we're gonna have him narrate a full Romeo and Juliet play to us as he's playing
Yeah.
to ensure
Full color commentary.
full concentration on this.
No, so
luck,
to Rich's
buddy.
point earlier about how the scaling
be
works.
scary in
so
front of
as we were
an
experimenting with this content, one of the things we discovered pretty quickly is we just didn't want to continue to scale monster damage up, in a really significant way as you're kind of going through this content. We really want to focus a lot more on monster health
have 4
scaling as you
potions.
go. Because we quickly get to a point where like any bat that kind of like clips you, which is basically just completely ice you unless you're invulnerable at that point, and it just makes it a less fun experience
They're
overall.
tanky.
So we wanted to make sure it was much more about like, can you beat that timer? Can you survive the bosses at the end? Not as much about like damage gets so high over the course of time that there's no opportunity for different classes to really be able to perform, right?
Yeah, and the Tears of Blood glyph really is going to increase your damage output.
Yes.
Right, so leveling that up. is
Did
gonna
you
be
actually
really-
have your Tears for Blood glyph equipped?
Oh, is it equipped?
So I did not, and I think one of the things that I wanted to do, I mean, for me, I think as I've been going in and testing it, like I think it's actually been a pretty cool experience to see like how it's been with and without. I think just exploring a little bit more into it as well, like. While my Paragon board is optimized for what I have here, it's definitely opening up a lot more. Oh, hold on a second. Can you-
Also, you didn't replenish your
he
potions
didn't
before
replen-
you
I
went
tried
in
to
here.
warn him.
So
It's about- This is for the stream.
mistakes were made.
no
This is for this-
This is for the stream.
Got no
you're
potions.
trying
This
to
is
give
for the
yourself a
stream,
disadvantage
right?
for clicks, I say.
Hey,
This
we've
is for the
got,
stream.
we've got more max potions.
Just die so that the video
Rich-
can be
Rich
Diablo
did not
4
do himself a
dev
few
dies while
favors
trying to
here. One,
complete.
He did not replenish his potions, and then 2, he did not equip a Tears for Blood glyph.
Yeah, you
Uh,
are
because-
falling behind that timer pretty
Yeah,
quickly at this
because
point.
he wanted to be a show.
is gonna be hard, dude.
Not
Yeah.
showing off.
Well, it's interesting to see how valuable, you were talking about this earlier, how valuable the vampiric powers are. in
They are
this-
tanky.
in this content as well.
Yeah.
Really configuring those.
Yeah, I mean,
no.
if you're permanently unstoppable, like Snake Family is a lot less dangerous to deal with across the board. Like you don't have to deal with that charging stun. You don't have to
charge
deal
bite.
with
No.
you don't have to deal with the paralyzed. Like there's you have some advantages. I think it's funny that we got snakes randomly twice in a row.
Okay, this is gonna be hard,
But
dude.
hey, that's the nature of.
It's gonna be an
live
actual
gameplay,
thing to try to defeat.
I will
It's
say,
not just snakes though. You can see other things.
He's out
in
of
the
pot.
snakes.
Right, yeah,
Dude,
that's
he's
a
out
great
of the
point.
pot.
By the way.
Each time you enter Abattoir of Zir, you're going to have different monsters, different tile sets, different layouts.
And I think the big thing here is that my eye is definitely drawn into the timer compared to how it was in the tier 1. I'm definitely not taking out as many monsters as I need to get the potions.
He's got no
and,
potions.
And-
Like, that
tip-
timer is really hurting my feelings right now.
that and
Everything
I,
seems fine
I will
here.
say like the normal progression for players will be
Oh my gosh.
well then that ends the
And he
story of
died.
Rich and
Did my
Abattoir.
best.
I will say that
died.
the normal progression for players is not to go immediately to a 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Chat deemed that you needed to go to a 10 immediately.
Yeah.
And Rich deemed that he did not need to actually equip his.
He
Tears
did
of
not
Blood
put potions
so,
on.
Yeah.
But this takes us to an interesting point. What happens when you die in a
Yeah, so when
Abattoir
you die in the video game, you die in the video game. So actually, you're going to lose your run because you have no respawns available when you go through a Abattoir of Zir run. So you'll have to go back. You'll have to make another key. That progress.
He has
is
to
gonna
make
be
another.
lost.
Okay.
So,
And
So good
thing you made the
so
backup
just
key earlier.
Word for warning for like even like a double like I guess penalty for hardcore players.
hardcore
Like
players,
yeah,
yeah.
lose your character and you lose
lose your
you
run.
lose your
Yeah, you're right.
your run.
Huge double penalty. Huge double
one
penalty. Yeah,
major
good point.
penalty and one small one. So yeah.
I think I do want to just follow up on the mention earlier what happens at the very end. I think the trying to return back to the adventure, but being
Yeah, this is fun.
surprised by this is something that we wanted to call out as well.
Yeah, so like basically, if the portal's gonna be there while the event is active, but unless you've actually used a sigil to kick it off, you're basically just gonna be able to come to this like kind of broken edifice here, and there's nothing, nowhere else to go.
I'd be curious, like, if you are in here with like a party, can you revive other party members as if they happen to die?
When a player goes down, the run is over.
Okay. Whoa. Okay. There we go. Yeah. So I know there's a few people asking questions like, hey, if I'm running this with a group, if anyone dies there, it's a done run. Mm-hmm. So it is a little punishing, but at the same time, it is endgame content.
Absolutely.